ding, 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 ding. Like, oh my gosh, this thing is so good. Why isn't everyone doing this?
Over 50,000 meditators. Emily has had an incredible impact on countless lives, including high-performing individuals, athletes, and celebrities. Her work has been featured in New York Times, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Vogue, and ABC, among others. How do you feel when you are wrong?
I love being right. I love getting an A. I love getting gold stars. I love being the best. Relax, 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 relax. Money and sex, right? I built a whole career helping people to see that meditation could actually make you more money and actually help you have better sex. People don't have time to meditate. I'm like, give me your phone. How many hours were you on Instagram this week? I'm fat, I'm old, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm a bad parent, I'm drinking too much, I don't have enough money, I'm too old. And then they're like, okay, brain, stop thinking. I sure would like a snack.
Here's the advertising slogan for you. You want money and sex? Join Ziva Meditation, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're making so much money and you're working so much less hard than me.
I read a post recently from your company that says the point of meditation is not to clear your mind. And I read that, I was like, what the heck?
The Avenue of the Strongest is a podcast dedicated to exploring the lives and experiences of the most inspiring individuals from around the world. Each episode features interviews with fascinating guests who share their insights and wisdom on a variety of topics, including education, impact, motivation, health, and learning. I'm your host, Vlad Suleiman.
And Ania Chowdhury.
Today we are thrilled to have Emily Fletcher with us, founder of Ziva Meditation and creator of the Ziva Technique. Emily is a bestseller author, having written Stress Less, Accomplish More, which has been translated into 12 languages. As a teacher to over 50,000 meditators, Emily has had an incredible impact on countless lives, including high-performing individuals, athletes, and celebrities. Her work has been featured in New York Times, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Vogue, and ABC, among others. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And the thing that weirdly didn't make it into the bio that I think is most relevant is that we created this amazing meditation training for kids with folks from Sesame Street and child psychologists from Harvard. And I think it's just so important to give kids these skills before we unlearn it and get all stressed out as adults. But I'm so happy to be here and thank you for having me.
Sure.
This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning educational publisher serving over 1 million students nationwide. If you're a kindergarten to 8th grade teacher or principal, be sure to check out our supplementary workbooks to get your students ready for standardized state testing. We cover all subjects from kindergarten to 8th grade. Use the coupon code AVENUE for a 25% discount off of all purchase orders. Visit us today at argoprep.com/store.
So before I jump into my first question, I would like to congratulate you with your launch of your new podcast. And I really love the name. Why isn't everyone doing this? I just love this name. Could you please briefly share any details about it?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So twice in my life, I have had that feeling of like, ding, 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 ding. Like, oh my gosh, this thing is so good. Why isn't everyone doing this? And the first time was when I discovered meditation. I was on Broadway having insomnia, going gray, getting sick. And I found meditation and it cured my insomnia on the first day. I didn't get sick for 8.5 years. I stopped going gray. I started enjoying my job again. And I thought, truly, why isn't everyone doing this? And so I made a whole career out of it. Like, as you said, I've taught 50,000 people how to do this stuff on their own, created the world's I don't know about the best, but in my mind, it's the best kids meditation training. And then now I'm having that feeling again, where I've discovered these really powerful embodied manifesting tools, where you're sort of transcending the fears and the limiting beliefs and the unknown that can show up in our minds and starting to get our whole bodies online and really getting all of us into coherence with ourselves so that we can use our full creation energy to help us get to where we want to go. So the podcast, Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? The idea is that I get to share the things that have changed my life so profoundly, and also interview some of the world's leading experts in meditation, in therapy, in tantra, in somatic experiencing, psychedelics, child psychology, to really have them share what was the moment where you had that feeling of like, God, this thing is so good. Why isn't everyone doing this? Because, many of us, especially now that we're getting so bifurcated as a society, it's not like just like 3 news channels anymore. It's not ABC and CBS and
Right.
NBC. Everyone has a TV station in their phone. And so we get sort of inadvertently in our own algorithms, in our own silos, in our own echo chambers. And so that's one of the beauty of podcasts, is that we get to cross-pollinate, right? We get to like learn about the genius of all these other people that we might have gotten sectioned off or segmented off from in society.
Right. So it was the same case when you left your Broadway career, where you said, that's it, why am I not doing the meditation? Or there was some other reason?
Well, to be honest, so I was singing, dancing, acting on Broadway for 10 years and thought it would be my dream. But the stress and anxiety of that led to insomnia, and it ended up kind of being a nightmare. And like I said, like that first time when I thought, why isn't everyone doing this? That was around meditation, because it was so good. I was like, wait, this is the key that everyone is looking for. Like I found it and it's inside of me. Like that's the great joke, right? Is that the thing that we're looking for externally is always found inside of us. And why I think the Ziva technique is so powerful is that it's giving you access to your own internal pharmacology, that dopamine and serotonin, those bliss chemicals that we think we're going to find on the other side of the person or the job or the kids graduating or the A on the test or the acquisition of the company. That feeling is actually only ever found inside. And so you could achieve and acquire and accomplish as much as you want, but if you don't have the ability to appreciate and to find your bliss in the here and now, it's not coming on the other side of any accomplishment. And so, and now it's like, and I've always said, if I ever found anything more powerful, I would start teaching that. And I have not found something more powerful for meditation. Ziva is still the most powerful that I've found, but I have found something more powerful for manifestation. And so that's the impetus for this new world and this new podcast. And I think the greatest teachers are the lifelong students, the ones that keep learning and keep eyes open, because an expert doesn't grow, right? An expert doesn't learn.
Right.
They're the know-it-all. They know everything. And if I'd say one of my fatal flaws is being in a fixed mindset. Like I love being right. I love getting an A. I love getting gold stars. I love being the best.
Yeah.
But that's not, you don't learn very much being the best or the expert, right? And so now I'm just I'm enjoying being a student.
How do you feel when you are wrong?
Angry, embarrassed, sad, ego bruised. But I had a very good therapist when I was in my 20s, and he said, Emily, you can either be right or you can be happy. Choose wisely. And I was like, I want to be both. I want to be right and happy. But the thing is, if you're always trying to be right, then you're very rarely happy. So as I'm getting older, I'm getting wiser. I'm starting to choose happiness.
What was the last Broadway show that you saw?
That I saw?
Yeah, that you saw.
I just went the other day and I saw. Okay. I didn't know those were going to be hard questions. It's going to come back. I can't remember right now. I'll tell you, and this might be a little controversial, but my favorite show that I've seen in a while was MJ, the musical. It's basically like going to a Michael Jackson concert. And I don't know where the royalties are going. I don't know how much of the family is getting the money. And I get that that's very controversial. And that show was amazing. And that the guy, Miles, he just left, but he won a Tony. He's the youngest performer to ever win a Tony for a Broadway show. And the guy who plays Michael Jackson, and he's phenomenal.
Wow, I definitely have to check it out. I'm a huge fan. I just saw Sweeney Todd last week.
Ooh.
So Sweeney Todd was a fantastic Broadway show. But I do want to, before we dive into Ziva meditation and your techniques and everything else, I just want to stick on one last question because of your experience, 10 years being on Broadway shows, and there's so many actors out there. So I kind of want to ask, is there any general advice or any piece of advice that you can give to the actors out there or aspiring actors, given given your history, given the experience, now that you can reflect, and now, everything that you have to look back onto, is there anything that you can tell them?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that popped in is to create for the sake of creating. Like, create for the sake of creating. And where that gets challenging is that anytime you make your passion your occupation, or if you make your hobby your
Mm-hmm.
job, it can very quickly like suck the joy out of it. And then it becomes a
Mm,
numbers game, or like, well, I have to go to 5 auditions this week in order to get 3 callbacks and get
mm,
1 booking. And then because you're just inevitably in the rejection stew, which is very honestly like that throws you into fight or flight. Like, to be
yeah.
ostracized from our community is like one of the deepest fears as a human, because we needed our tribe to survive back in the day.
Right.
And so like public shaming, or that's why people's fear of public speaking is actually larger than death, because we all
Mm,
think we're immortal to some degree. But
yeah.
public speaking is now. I can feel that in the now. That embarrassment I can feel in my body currently.
Yeah.
And that would
Yeah.
actually lead to death. If someone wasn't helping you get food and water and hunting, like, you would actually die. So that rejection, it's not a joke. Like, it can be legitimately like low, like it's a lowercase t, but it can be traumatic after time. And so it's like the constant rebalancing of creating for the sake of creating, meaning that you're using whatever the art is to
Right.
transmute that rejection in real time. And also it gets you out of the "I'll be happy when" syndrome. Because if you
Mm,
think, well, I'll be happy once I get my Broadway show, I'll be happy once I get a new
right.
agent, I'll be happy once I book, whatever, I'm above the title, then that's a never ending game. It's actually an impossible
Yeah.
game to win. And so instead, if we can just like do the scene because like you love the scene, if you can sing the
Yeah.
song because you
Yeah.
love the song, like, one, it's going to make you an infinitely better performer because you're going to be much more in the
Right.
now and in the present moment. And two, it's going to take you away. And this is the big change that happened for me when I started meditating, was that pre-meditation, I was very much looking for validation from the audience. Like, need me,
Okay.
like me, want me,
Right.
hire me. And that is unwatchable. It's repulsive to watch someone on stage that isn't full of themselves, meaning that they don't have the ability to plug into the divine, and they're looking for validation from the audience. It's like the
Mm,
audience doesn't want you to need anything from them. And so this actually
mm,
becomes a very spiritual game. Like, the best performers are channeling God. And I will
mm.
define God as the collective consciousness of all that is, right? And the
Wow.
best writers, the
Yeah.
best performers, the best musicians, they have seemingly like their own very big ability to plug into the collective consciousness. And so that is a valuable asset. That is a
Wow.
valuable asset. And the best writers, the best songwriters, the best producers, like, they have that thing honed. And so
Yeah.
if you, as an actor, because you get cast sort of as the low man on the totem pole, like, you're like the puppet
Hmm.
singing someone
Right.
else's
Right.
words, someone else is in charge of whether or
Right.
not you get the job. And so it's easy to think that you need everyone else. But if you can really
Mm,
see the power in being the creative, and know that spiritually, creatively, like, if your job truly is to listen, like, how does nature want to use me in this scene, in this
right.
song, with this dance? How can I be a vessel for nature to flow through me? That is actually the intangible thing that no one can get enough of. That is why people become New York Times bestsellers. That is why people win
Mm,
Oscars and Grammys and Tonys, is because they have that relationship with the unmanifest, and they know how to bring it into the manifest. And that is the job of the creative. And so it was so fun for me to teach acting, because, as you can tell, it's this beautiful blending of, like, creativity is a spiritual act, right? Like, God, the
right.
creator. We
Right. Right.
anthropomorphize this creative force itself, but we have the ability to access that ourselves as humans. And so if you can make it a spiritual practice, and if you can create for the sake of creating, then, one, you become more detached about the outcome, which makes you less needy
Hmm.
and infinitely more hireable. And
Right.
two, it makes you more valuable because you're actually
Mm,
plugging into the thing that everyone really wants.
right. Now that is great advice.
And I
Seriously.
think this
That.
advice is not just for the actors. This advice
That is
can be
correct.
for
Right.
everyone,
Right.
for
Right.
That's
business
correct.
owners, for moms, for
Right.
dads, for everyone.
Yeah,
Right.
like when you're playing with your kid, play for the sake of
Yeah.
playing, right? Don't, not to check it off the list. Okay, I put in my hour of playtime with my kid. It's like, no, get on the floor and play. It's going to be fun for you. It's going to be fun for them. And you're playing for the joy of it. And then actually play. I mean, we're talking about manifestation and heightened spiritual practices. It's like sometimes being in intense presence with your child and playing is one of the most profound spiritual things that you can do. Like, you don't have to go into a retreat for 10 days if you have a child. You know, you can actually use your parenting as a spiritual practice.
Emily, I'm super excited to get to talk to you about the Ziva technique. I want to dive right into it. In fact, I read a post recently from your company that says the point of meditation is not to clear your mind. And I read that. I was like, what the heck? That's exactly what I thought meditation was. I love this. I'm super excited to have this conversation because you're completely right. This is a big misconception. I have been misconceived. I want to talk. I want to talk. Yeah. So please, what is the point? Because I feel like a lot of people think that, and so maybe it's an unfair question. But number one, why do people think that? And number two, what's up with this? What is the point of meditation?
Yeah. So I think this is probably going to go on my tombstone. I think it is the thing I am most quoted as saying. And it is that we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. That no one actually cares if you're good at meditation. No one cares what type of meditation you're doing. No one cares how many or few thoughts you're having sitting in a chair. Everyone cares how good you are at life, especially your kids. Especially your students. How present are you? How kind are you? How creative are you? How's your immune system? How's your sex drive? How's your innovation? Like, these things matter. And yet people have mixed it up and they think, well, if I could just quiet my mind, then I'll be a good meditator. And it's like, well, actually the mind thinks involuntarily, just like the heart beats involuntarily. So let's just do an exercise, because this is such a common misconception. Like, this is so, even people who have never studied meditation, even people who have not even taken one meditation class, are convinced that the point is to clear the mind. And so I'm just going to do an exercise to throw this out the window for once and for all. On the count of 3, I want everyone, the amazing host and everyone listening, on the count of 3, I want you to give your heart a command to stop beating. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Please no one die. Right? Like, impossible. Like, it doesn't work. Heart beats involuntarily. Mind thinks involuntarily. So trying to give your brain a command to shut up is as impactful as trying to give your heart a command to stop beating. It doesn't work. And yet this is the criteria by which everyone is judging themselves as to whether or not they're a good meditator. And this is why most people think that meditation is hard. It's why people quit. It's why we fetishize monks, because we think that, like, oh, this monk must be able to clear their mind. They're better than me. And secretly what everyone's looking for is a reprieve from the bully in their brain. They don't like what this thing is saying.
Right.
So they're trying to shut it up. I'm fat. I'm old. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I'm a bad parent. I'm drinking too much. I don't have enough money. I'm too old. And so it's like, we just want to stop that thing. And so meditation is not booze, right? It's not dimming your consciousness. That's when you get drunk, you're killing the neurons in your brain.
Right.
And which is different than psychedelics. We have a whole other podcast on that. But specifically, like, the buzz that comes from alcohol is deadening and dampening your cognition, your cognitive abilities. With meditation, the opposite is happening. You are becoming more conscious. More of the brain is lighting up. It looks more like a brain on psilocybin or LSD. It's like the whole thing becomes colorful. So over time, you increase something called neuroplasticity, because you're bringing blood and energy to all parts of the brain, which over time strengthens something called the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. I think anyone in education will really appreciate this, that you know that there's a really beautiful balance between, like, memorization and facts, and we all have to, like, agree on some reality. But then there's also creativity, which is like your unique human expression. Like, why did nature incarnate you? And we want to have both firing. And I think meditation is one of the most profound ways to get both of those happening. But people are dead in the water if they go and sit down and they're like, okay, I'm going to meditate. And secretly their goal is to, like, shh, quiet. I don't like you, quiet. And then they're like, okay, brain, stop thinking. I sure would like a snack. Snacks are delicious. Oh no, now I'm thinking about snacks. Oh no, I'm thinking about snacks. I suck at meditation. I quit. And that is the beginning and the end of most people's meditation career. And it's so sad to me because they potentially robbed themselves of a lifetime of bliss and fulfillment and better performance and better sex and reversing their body age and stronger immune system simply because they were judging themselves based on misinformation. They thought that the point was to clear the mind, when actually the point is to get good at life. And what we do at Ziva is that we give people a tool to help them rest. So you're getting rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. And then that rest, the body knows how to heal itself, and it starts healing not only the stress from today, but all the stress from the past. And that, it's the getting rid of the stress that's stuck in our cells. That's what ushers us into higher states of consciousness. That's what helps you like do less, do more in less time, sleep better, all those benefits that I was just listing. So It's not about clearing the mind, truly. It's about, am I getting better at life? So people are like wearing all these body tracking devices and, they've got this and that and that. And I'm like, I don't need a device to tell me that meditation cured my insomnia. I don't need a device to tell me that meditation cured my eating disorder. I don't need a device to tell me that meditation made my sex better. I don't need a device to tell me that meditation has reversed my body age, right? Like I'm 44 and in better shape, and I think look better now than I did at 29. And so it's like the intangible and the tangible. But if you're trying to get benefits based on that 1 10-minute sitting, then you're playing the wrong game.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. And I'm so happy that the point of meditation is not to clear your mind because
does it make you feel less like a failure?
Yes, definitely. Without a doubt. But I want to talk a little bit more about the Ziva technique. And I know you hit on a point that I thought was extremely fascinating, which is what you teach at Ziva gives you something that is 5 times deeper than sleep. That sounds incredible. I want to get some clarification on that. So when you're practicing this, is it the Ziva technique that when you practice, you're getting something that is 5 times deeper than sleep?
Yep. So the Ziva technique, I think I mentioned it very quickly, but it's mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. So these are the 3 M's that make up, that's unique to what I teach, because certainly there's thousands of different styles of meditation and apps and YouTube videos. But one of the things that makes it really special is that like most of the apps out there and most of the YouTube videos, someone's guiding you through, right? Like someone else is guiding you through visualization or breath work. And so to some degree, you're dependent on technology, like you're dependent on your phone in order to meditate. And that to me is like having an AA meeting in a liquor store. It's like, why would I want to go into the belly of the beast to unplug? Like, why would I want to have to go to my phone in order to meditate? Like I even, I used to wear a watch. I was actually a much better meditator when I wore a watch, because now I use a clock app on my phone. Like I just have my phone as just to be like a clock.
Yeah.
And I pick it up and then, it's 18 text messages and 45 emails. And it's like, get this thing, throw this thing in a river and then meditate. So mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. And with Ziva, I'm training people to be self-sufficient. So by the time you graduate from the 15-day training, you don't need me anymore. You don't need an app or a phone or headphones or Wi-Fi or a dude playing drums on your chest. It's like you just have those 3 ancient technologies to take with you for life, which means you could close your eyes on a plane, on a bus with your kids screaming in the next room and start to flood your brain and body with dopamine and serotonin, which are bliss chemicals. And to your point, it's in that practice, specifically in the meditation portion of the 3 M's, that you're giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. Now, how do we know that? Heart rate slows, body temperature cools, heart rate variability actually increases, blood pressure drops. So you're basically going to like the deepest point of REM sleep, but within 30 to 45 seconds. And then you stay there for that full time. And the cool thing is that on the other side, you don't have a sleep hangover because you're not inducing sleep. Right. It's hard for people to understand like what that feels like viscerally, because all we know is sleep. So you think like, 15 minutes of meditation, I must be groggy on the other side, but you're not, because you're releasing bliss chemistry, not sleep chemistry. And so it becomes incredibly restorative. But like for a 15-minute meditation, it's about the equivalent of an hour and a half nap without that sleep hangover. And then because you've been like peeling away the layers of stress that honestly make us stupid, sick, and slow, then on the other side of the meditation, you are faster, you are clearer, you are healthier. And so it's not about focusing. yes, you will be more focused as a result of the meditation, but it's not because you are focusing in the technique itself. Right? Like in a massage, like I'm more relaxed at the end of a massage because someone else is like applying pressure. I'm not applying that pressure. Right. And I'm also not being like, relax, 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 relax. But I just am. The massage is happening, and then I'm more relaxed on the other side. I'm not trying to relax during the massage. Just like you don't try to fall asleep. Same thing with meditation. If we start trying to meditate, that's when we mess ourselves up.
And what can be the longest meditation?
Well, for Ziva, I instruct people to do 15 minutes twice a day. So 15 minutes in the morning before coffee, breakfast, computer, and then ideally 15 minutes in that mid-afternoon slump. Like it's about 2:09 here, and I'm starting to feel like my eyes start to feel a little thick from looking at the screen. I'm starting to just like, oh, maybe I want some chocolate or a tea. And it's like, oh, that's my body saying, hey, you're running out of gas. It's time for you to meditate. So right after we finish, I'm going to meditate before I have like a 2-hour live class with some zivaKIDS. And then, I mean, we'll see, but I'm 16 years in, twice a day, every day. Wow. And every day, like after I do my meditation, I'm like, let's go. Like, I feel like I'm ready to party. And then I have so much more energy. Like I could finish work at 6 or 7 and then still like be so present and have joy and fun left for my child versus just being like at the end of my rope, losing my temper and being like, just here's an iPad, just go to bed, which is an unfortunate reality that I think parents are so burned out, and teachers too, that it's like, we don't have any gas left in the tank to give to our children because we're in survival mode. And it's like, we gotta flip this, right? Get out of fight or flight and get into what I call stay and play so that we can do that with our children.
Wow. And I want to clarify one other point, which is, so your training sessions at Ziva runs about for 15 days. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our most popular training is Ziva Online, and that's about 15 minutes a day for 15 days. Yeah.
Got it. And so ideally within 15 days, I would be able to go ahead and now practice it by myself.
That's my job, is to make myself irrelevant. Like by the time you graduate, like that. You're good. Right. You got this thing. You don't need to pick up your phone or to meditate ever again.
Oh, I love that.
That's a business model that I never saw. Usually people want to have people on subscription, not just get rid of you.
You're telling me. I mean, I'm just now, like, as I'm starting to I'm like in masterminds and looking at other people's businesses, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're making so much money and you're working so much less hard than me. But my goal in starting this was never to, yes, I want to be abundant and I believe in spiritual people. I like getting the good guys rich. I like laundering money through spiritual consciousness, like, make no mistake. And I really believe in self-sufficiency. Like, I don't want people having to plug into their phones in order to meditate. And of course, there's like more advanced things that people can do with me. They can study the Vedas. We have masterminds, there's retreats, there's ways for people to advance if they choose. But it's like, for just getting rid of the absurd amounts of stress that are on the planet right now, like this is like, let's get as many people meditating as quickly as possible. And that's really the beauty of Ziva Online, is that there's no doctrine, there's no dogma. It is just like the minimum viable dose of like what is going to give you an effective stress relieving tool in the shortest amount of time as possible, in a way that you actually look forward to practicing. Because if people aren't actually meditating once they graduate, then it doesn't do any good. So it has to be thorough, right? You have to intellectually understand, why would I quote unquote waste my time for 15 minutes twice a day? So if you get that intellectually, and then viscerally your body's like, oh my gosh, this feels so good, then you're in, right? Like, then you start to crave it like you would coffee or chocolate. And so that's really what I do in the course, is that I give you the visceral experience, but mostly I'm like, what I'm up against is people's like love affair with their own busyness, because it makes us feel important. Like we're all trying to prove that we're the busiest person in the land. And so I'm basically having to like reorganize that in people's mind, that actually you plugging yourself into source energy is the number one most important thing that you could be doing in a day, and that you're going to solve an infinite amount of problems in that time that would have taken you days, months, weeks, possibly years to solve if you weren't actually being like, oh, right, call that person. Oh, no, not that idea, this business idea. Like, those things will just happen effortlessly, elegantly in the meditation that literally you could have wasted 3 years on a stupid business plan that just, you are rendered choiceless inside of the meditation, because you're basically surrendering your most valuable asset, which is your time. You're surrendering that to source energy itself. And so she pays attention.
No, I want to speak about right now about kids and how meditation impact kids. And I particularly would like to speak about, because my wife, she's a certified yoga teacher and author of Froggy Yogi book, where she incorporated
I have
meditation.
Froggy Yogi. That's your wife? Is that your child that's in there?
Yes, this one.
Wait, my son loves this book. We do it together. He was literally just doing it with my nanny, and she was dying laughing because he was like doing the alligator. He was like 1, 2. He was counting. It's so good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love it.
My wife will be happy when she see it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I've tried everything. I've tried Cosmic Kids. I've tried him to get to yoga a million other ways, and he won't do anything, but he wants to read this book, and he does the poses with me. I don't know. Did you send me a copy?
Yeah, I believe she approached to your assistant. I don't know if it was Emily at the time. Or no, I don't know. And she just sent to your office, and they just put it on the table or something, and then you posted a picture or something.
It worked.
It was a long time ago. It was like 5 years ago, I think.
Wow.
Okay, great. Well, now that we've had this conversation, I'll post about it and share about it, because it's truly, we love it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's speak about the ZivaKIDS. Could you please share the what is it about, and how kids can long-term benefit from this?
Yeah. So it was so interesting because I started working on ZivaKIDS like pre-pandemic, and it's a long process. Like, at least for me, it was like, I wanted to work with child psychologists. I wanted to work with occupational therapists to make sure, because I'm a great meditation teacher. Like that, I taught 50,000 high performing adults. You could throw me on stage in front of anyone, anytime. I got this. Communicating to children is a very different beast. Their brains are literally different. They're basically in a borderline hypnotic state until they're 8 years old. So just in case if that's news to you, they're in a theta state. I believe it's been a minute, but we're like an alpha beta usually as cognitive prefrontal cortex adults. Kids are in more of a theta state. And so it's like, that's why if you have trauma pre 8 years old, it's hard to access it in cognitive behavioral therapy. You almost need hypnosis or psychedelic assisted therapy or somatic experiencing, because it's hard to find those memories with your cognitive brain. So anyway, speaking to children is a very different deal. And I also know that kids are very literal. So we worked on this for a really long time. And then 2020 came, and then all these kids were home, homeschooling, pandemic, extraordinary amounts of stress. Parents are under stress, teachers are under stress, screen time. And so it was fascinating that like we had been, and again, I think this is meditating, right? Like nature was like, hey, get this thing ready, get this thing ready. Like kids are about to need it. Of course, I had no way of knowing that consciously. But we released it, and it felt so grateful to have this tool to be able to share with families, to help kids to feel their feelings, and to help kids to be able to practice mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. So ZivaKIDS is 7 days, and each one is sort of feels like a TV show, but it's like an episode of screen time that you can feel really, really good about, because it's very high level social and emotional learning. And the idea is that just like Ziva Online, once the kids graduate, they have these skills to take with them forever. Now, the only complaint that we get is that parents and kids want more of them. They're just like, they just want more, because once you find a show that you like, you're like, let's do it. But I was thinking of it more like a training than I was, an episodic television show. But we made a puppet with folks from Sesame Street and from Harvard, child psychologist from Harvard. And so the puppet's name is Z Bunny, and he's my co-star. And he and I teach the 4 to 8 year olds. And then we have one for preteens that's 9 to 14. So they're basically 2 different curriculums inside of ZivaKIDS. And we start with mindfulness, which the difference between mindfulness and meditation is mindfulness is all about the now. It's about bringing your awareness into the present moment. Can I get into my body here and now? And even children, it's like, what was yesterday? What's tomorrow? Like my son, he's 4, and he's starting to say like, what's next day? What's tomorrow? Like he's starting to have a concept of the future. And it's fascinating to watch that happen. But mindfulness, all about getting present in the now. Meditation is all about getting rid of your stress from the past. And even children, even if they don't have a lot from this lifetime, believe it or not, we are we inherit at least 2 generations of epigenetic stress. They're postulating potentially 7 generations, but we've proven 2. So, if your grandparents were Holocaust survivors, or if your great grandparents were enslaved people, like that's sadly like in our children's cells, that's in their epigenetics. So even if they've had a great life, there's still things to unwind and tools that we want to get in them early, while their brains and bodies are still quite plastic, right? Meaning that they're changeable, they're mutable.
Yeah.
And then the manifesting, I think, is really powerful, because it's basically like asking them, like, how would I love to feel today? And that's all manifesting is. It's getting into the feeling of what you assume a thing will bring. And so what we do with the kids is that, I'm not asking kids to sit down and sit still like a frozen statue for minutes on end, because it's not how they meditate. Like, again, they're already in a borderline meditative state just in their 24 hours a day. So it's really about highlighting the pieces that, and giving them the vocabulary that we want them to bring with them as that prefrontal cortex comes online. So with little kids, we start with, there's a song and they like shake it out. They're like shaking out the stormies, and we frame the big feelings as stormies. So there's mad stormies, there's sad stormies, there's scared stormies. And so instead of like those feelings being repressed, it's like a storm. Like every storm runs out of rain is a beautiful Maya Angelou quote. And even when you're having big feelings like that, those feelings are going to pass, and the sun is always shining. Just right above those clouds, the sun is always shining. So it's teaching the kids that their happiness is always found inside. And rather than repressing or pretending that those feelings aren't there, we're giving them the tools to actually feel and move through them. And then I ask them, like, how would you love to feel? Right. And so then giving them the tools to move into the state of their choosing, not the state of the parents choosing. And there's actually a whole parent or adult training as well. So like if a teacher was facilitating, or if a caregiver was facilitating, it's important that the adult knows what's going on as well, because we don't want to be the meditation police for our kids. Like, we don't want to force them to do it. And we certainly don't want to use it as like another stifling tool. Like one of the reasons that I made ZivaKIDS, that I feel so passionately about this, is that because now working with adults, and now especially moving into like embodied manifesting and sacred sexuality, I can see the level of conditioning and repression of our feelings that's happening. And that starts at birth. Like, shh, don't cry, have a bottle. Shh, don't cry, have a toy. Don't cry, have an iPad. Have a Facebook, have some booze, have some wine, have some pills, but don't feel. Like, no matter what you do, don't feel. There's billions of dollars of industry built on top of ensuring that we never have to feel our feelings. And the more spiritual work I did, I just got out of 5 days in a cave by myself in the total pitch black darkness. And the big epiphany that I came out with is that we have to feel our feelings. It's like not complex, but it's really hard. And we spend our whole lives avoiding it. And so really what I'm doing with ZivaKIDS is giving the whole family a framework and tools and vocabulary in order to make it safe for kids to feel their feelings, so that they can decide what state they want to be in.
Wow, that's beautiful. I also want to add one more thing for our listeners to know that your program, ZivaKIDS, was approved and praised by our dear friend of our show, Dr. Shefali. So I want to just our listeners know it, so they can go ahead and sign up and take this course.
Yeah, Dr. Shefali she was an advisor, and she's a dear friend. And I mean, obviously such a powerhouse in this force of, awakened families and conscious parenting. And it was really great to have her as an advisor on it.
Yeah, I love the work that you're doing with ZivaKIDS specifically, because you're right. A lot of the problems that we see, if we can find solutions for our children, that's fantastic, because that's how we prevent a lot of these issues. We've had so many incredible guests over here on the shows, on our podcast. The one that comes into mind that's relevant right now is Steve Goods, who is the CEO of 5 Keys Charter Programs. He runs schools in county jails all in California. I forget exactly what counties, but what he's doing over there, he wants to educate the youth. He's trying to address the root issue over here that the kids are facing. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the fact is that a lot of the issues that we see today is we need to really look for good ideas and solutions to work with our kids so they don't face these issues. So I'm a huge fan of what you do at ZivaKIDS.
Thanks.
I know that you mentioned on your website that there are two missing ingredients to having a meditation practice that actually sticks. So could you share with us what they are and why they're crucial for consistent meditation practice?
So I would say, well, I'll share like the two main barriers, and then I feel a little bit like, what are the two ingredients? It's like a pop quiz. But I'll say the two big barriers that I see is that people think that they need to be able to clear their mind, which I think we did a really good job of explaining, is that trying to stop your mind from thinking is truly like trying to stop your heart from beating, and you'll feel like you're failing. So that is really important. The other piece is time, right? Like we are all so in love with our busyness. And so we all think like, I would love to meditate, but my brain is too crazy. And girl, I don't have time. Like my life is busy right now. I'm gonna meditate once this kid is born, once they're in school, once I acquire this company, once I hire my next assistant, once I have $1 million in the bank, once I'm retired. And then you're like, oh, well, now I'm dead. And I never got around to that meditation thing. And so I just went ahead and lived my whole life stressed, thinking that I'd calm down and enjoy things just after that next achievement. And then that day never comes. And the tricky thing is that it's like, once we climb a mountain, then we've proven to ourselves that we can climb a mountain. And now we can see all the other mountains we have yet to climb. And so I think, oh, well, I'll be happy when this thing happens. I'll have more time when this mountain, and then this mountain, and then this mountain. And truly then, and so it's just like, it's here and now. Our bliss is always in the right here inside of us. And it is always right now. And if we don't have the ability to find that now, if whatever tools and techniques and spiritual practices are not giving us that right now, it ain't going to come on the other side of any acquisition. And so this, to me, if people can get those two concepts of like, I don't have to clear my mind, just because I'm having thoughts doesn't keep me from getting benefits. And if they can really understand that this is not a bubble bath for your brain, this is not like a cute pedicure that you can get around to and you have some extra space, that it's actually the single most important piece of mental hygiene that you need to be practicing, not only selfishly for you, but for your family, for your coworkers, and then for society at large, then people commit. Right? Because it's not just about them anymore. It's like we would not leave our house without brushing our teeth. That is rude and gross. And it's same, like, don't go spewing your stress all around your family and colleagues. That is not their responsibility. You need to launder that. And then beautifully, like once you have laundered your own stress, you become infinitely more adaptive for someone else. Like someone else is having a hard time and you have what I call adaptation energy in the tank. And so if someone else needs you, you have energy and time to give, versus that we all have the friend that's like always frazzled, always late, always broke, always stressed. And like you don't even want to ask them for anything because you know they don't have any resources, versus the friend who is like measured, early, abundant, kind, present. And you're like, you know what? I feel safe enough to bring my sorrow to this person. I feel safe enough to celebrate my joy with this person because they have been responsible enough to resource themselves. And unfortunately, what we can't see is the ripple effect of us moving through life unresourced. How many relationships is it costing us? Personal, professional, how many opportunities is it costing us? Because even, if you believe in that, like nature's listening, if you're always like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed, I've got too much on my plate. If that's the prayer that you're offering up to nature, like why on earth would she give you more assignments? Why would she give you more opportunities or more abundance if you're complaining about what's on your current workload? I really like to anthropomorphize nature as the CEO of a company. And so it's like, be a good employee, like do your job with joy and say thank you. And then they're like, oh, great, you're doing a good job on your current workload. We're going to promote you. We're going to give you more exciting projects.
I love that. I'll pass over the next question to Vlad over here.
Okay, let me see here. Okay.
Nice.
So I think this next question is most anticipated today from our listeners. So you've highlighted that meditation can lead to increased financial success and improve intimate relationships. So could you discuss the connection between meditation and these outcomes and share any examples or experiences that support this idea?
It would be my greatest delight. Okay, so money and sex, right? I built a whole career on helping people to see that meditation could actually make you more money and actually help you have better sex. And it's interesting because, I started this 13 years ago, started teaching 13 years ago, and that was very much the name of the game. It was like we were trying to achieve as much as we could, acquire as much as we could. And now I feel like things are changing a bit, maybe post-pandemic, maybe just the name of the game, but it's like we're moving into a different paradigm that is more, dare I say, receptive, dare I say, more in harmony with nature, more about listening. And yet still, money can lead to freedom. And our sexual energy is the most creative energy that we have. So let's start with abundance, financial abundance. What do we really want when we want money? We want freedom.
Yeah.
We want the freedom to travel where we want, date who we want, live where we want, raise our children like we want. Like we want the liberation and the joy of freedom. And if you are making, 40 grand a year and living in New York City, that's equivalent to like 15 grand a year. You have very limited options of where you can live, how you can raise your children, what kind of childcare. Trips are probably off the table. Like there's very little freedom inside of that.
Yeah.
And so what I've found is that when people start meditating, one, they start to feel more free. So even if you are making that money, even if you're in a jail cell, you actually feel more free because you're not confined by the old trauma and conditioning and stress that is trapped in the cells of our body, because you start to realize that you are not exclusively your body. Yes, that's you. This is me. This is you. Yes, we all have these bodies are real. It's not an illusion. These are real bodies. I'm a real person. And there's a whole nother part of my reality that most of us don't have access to. And we start to meditate, especially at Ziva, we utilize something called a mantra, which is not a slogan, it's not a saying, but it's a Sanskrit word that means mind vehicle. And we utilize that mind vehicle to access a part of the brain that's more identified with that which remains, more identified with the piece that lives on beyond the death of the body. We start to be able to access that thing twice a day, every day. So even if you were totally broken in a jail cell, you would start to feel more freedom. Let's say you're not broken in a jail cell. Let's say you do have a job, or you are an entrepreneur, or you are, have some sort of income generating activities. When you are plugging yourself into the very source of all creativity every day, twice a day, you cannot help but start to make better decisions. You cannot help but start to prioritize more appropriately. You cannot help but actually, meditators perform 40% higher, 40% higher on something called the tripartite performance variability test, which basically means that they can do three things well. Like they can do a job accurately, quickly, and all while remaining calm, 40% better than non-meditators. They can do something quickly, accurately, and all while remaining calm. Non-meditators can do it quickly and accurately, but they get stressed, or they can do it quickly and they mess it up, or they do it, so it's 3 out of 3 meditators are 40% higher. That I don't really care what industry you're in. That's likely going to lead to more financial abundance. You're either going to get a promotion, a raise, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to start to come up with better ideas. If you're a stay-at-home parent, it's like, we all know we need to do things quickly and accurately and all while remaining calm. So whatever your job is, it's going to make you better at your job. Also, it increases something that I call deserving power, which is basically like, what do you believe that you deserve? And specifically with the Ziva technique, because right after the meditation, when the right and left hemispheres of the brain are functioning in unison, then we ask ourselves the question, what would I love? So simple. So simple, and no one's doing it. What would I love? And when you plant those seeds from that fertile ground of that brain state, like we start to see that the space between our desires and our desires becoming manifest gets shorter and shorter. Part of that is in the manifestation. I'm a very good manifestation teacher, but a lot of it comes from the meditation, because as you get rid of the backlog of stresses, you start to believe that you deserve your desires. So that's the money piece. Now with sex, I'll talk sort of like neurobiologically to start, and then you'll have to just cut me off because I could literally talk about this for 8 more hours. It's like my new favorite topic. But just really simply, the number one reason that most cohabitating couples say that they don't have as much intimacy time as they would like is that they're too tired. Right? This is not news, right? Not tonight, honey, I'm too tired. If it's true that Ziva is giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep, then you do one 15-minute meditation at your office in the middle of the afternoon. That's like an hour and a half nap. So if you were passing out at 9:30 or 10, put the kids down, fall asleep on the couch with Netflix and a glass of wine in your hand. It's like, well, now, what if you had an hour and a half more rest in your tank? Right? An hour and a half is like, take a shower, have sex, and then you're still in bed on time. So if that's all meditation did for you, it could have the potential to really up-level your sex life if you had an hour and a half more rest in the tank. But the other thing is headaches. Not tonight, honey, I have a headache. Well, actually, if you were to self-pleasure or bring yourself to orgasm right at the onset of a headache or a migraine, it makes the vascular system in the brain dilate, which can stop a migraine from coming on. Another little bit woo-woo but fascinating phenomenon that happens is that when you start meditating, obviously your neural activity increases, but that increases something called mirror neurons, which is mirror neurons is like why porn is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But it's also why if I were to take a knife and like cut it across my hand, you would be like, ow, like it would hurt you to watch me hurt myself. So mirror neurons is like my brain has boomerangs and your brain has boomerangs, and they come out and they report back. Or sorry, they dance with each other and then they report back. And so when your neural activity increases and the mirror neural activity increases, that means you're going to get more pleasure from witnessing your partner's pleasure. Right? So it becomes this like beautiful upward spiral. So you become more intuitive and then the whole thing becomes more enjoyable. Also, this is to say nothing of the fact that like 1 in 4 people experience some level of sexual trauma. Right? So that is a form of stress and that gets stored in our bodies, in our cells. So as you start meditating, it's sort of allowing some of that trauma to fall away from the cellular memory, which gives you a lot more energy and capacity available for the present moment. And then if you put in, reversing your body age, improving your immune system, and then just like the adrenal balancing that can happen, which the adrenals and your hormones are very closely linked, then like in all of the ways that stress is like the anti-aphrodisiac, meditation can become a huge aphrodisiac.
So people who are listening to us right now, what else you need to go start meditating? And first of all, I'm speaking to myself, that's it. Today I'll go and start meditating because I was meditating like 5 years ago, I didn't have 8 years ago. I didn't have wife, I didn't have kids, and I was meditating, exercising every day. And then I met my wife, everything started to, and everything is fine. And then I just dropped it.
Yeah, so it's tricky. Like if you're working
I don't need to hear
and you
anything
have kids, yeah, but honestly, it's like, why are we working so hard? Why did we have kids? Like if you really get to the why of the why of the why, I had kids because I thought it'd be fun. And like, I thought it would be additive to my life. I'm doing this job because I want to make a difference. Well, guess what? You being stressed and sick and sad and stupid and tired is not going to move you towards your personal or your professional goals. So like, why not make yourself feel good right now and then see if that doesn't make you a better parent? See if that doesn't make you better at your job. I mean, the answer is undecidedly it will. Unambiguously it will. And I will acknowledge that it's real. Like it's busy. Like we're all busy. And so if you have a kid and a job, you just have to be strategic about it. You cannot wait for tactical free time. You have to be strategic about it and disciplined. So like people, I don't have time to meditate. I'm like, give me your phone. How many hours were you on Instagram this week? It's like, you have time. You're just not spending it on your meditation. You're spending it on Instagram. So you make a plan and you stick to it.
So
and that's my job.
Here's advertising slogan for you. You want money and sex? Join Ziva Meditation, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
So no, it's very important. And I think it's, it's not a often talked about topic, which I think is a we're doing ourselves a big disservice. So thank you for spreading that message. Actually, I think that's equally important to talk about because here we're talking about, let's say, zivaKIDS, and then parents watching this, they hear the word sex, and all of a sudden they freeze up, which makes no sense because that is a very natural thing, right?
Totally.
It's
It's like,
so
yeah, where do we think
important
those
to
kids
talk
came
about.
from? It actually came from
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, I don't know why so many people are afraid of the word sex. I don't know. They just
Yeah.
as soon as they hear it, their brain shuts off.
Right.
Well, I think it's been a very active campaign, actually. I think it's been many tens of thousands of years from very specific, and like in lots of different religions to divorce us from our own
Right.
divinity. And I actually think we're on the precipice of like a real revolution in that, like a real reclamation. Just like we used
I
to look at
agree.
CBS, ABC, and NBC for our news, or we used to go to the Pope or the Dalai Lama, that there was like one person or one channel to God. I think those days are quickly coming to an end. And it's a big part of why I'm moving into this new work is to democratize God and to help people remember that they have this beautiful internal pharmacy available to them, and that we have the ability to do one of the most profound things we can do as a human is to create life. But we could also use that exact same energy to create whatever it is that we want, but with that same beautiful like life force energy inside of us. And it just takes some reconditioning is all.
Yeah, no, I love that. Emily, I want to talk a little bit about A-Fest. We've
Oh
had a couple
yeah.
of speakers now. We had Dr. Shafali just a couple of days ago. We had Jason Goldberg, incredible. I know that all of you have attended A-Fest over here with Vision. Now, you've mentioned that A-Fest is a unique event that combines TED-level talks, Burning Man level parties, and Summit Series level entrepreneurs. So I want to ask you, can you share a memorable experience or story from your time at A-Fest that kind of captures that essence of this incredible event?
Totally. I mean, also, you're welcome, Vision. I think I gave him the best testimonial ever for A-Fest. It's so good. But true, I'm going back. I'm going to Cartagena in a couple of weeks because I really missed it. Having my son Jasper and then the pandemic, but I'm excited to go back. But it really is something special. Like, it's a very global community, whereas I go to a lot of conferences. I get invited to speak at a lot of different things, and which are quite like North American heavy, but this is truly a global audience. And so you get to meet like famous meditation teachers from Indonesia or biohackers from India, or, like people that maybe aren't in your social media algorithm for whatever reason.
Right.
So it really becomes a bit of a melting pot, and Vision is just really upping his game. Like the parties are getting better and better. And truly, like I've met some of my dearest friends, Michael Bernard Beckwith, JJ Virgin, who became my mentor. But a memory is Mark Hyman and I were dancing. I think this was in Greece, maybe. And every year he does a speaker dance off. So he has the speakers dancing. Now, I had a real unfair advantage because I was on Broadway for 15 years, or 10 years, but dancing my whole life. And here's Mark Hyman, like 20 years my senior, and like really holding his own. But I did win. I did win that dance competition. But it's like equal parts learning. And also it's not just like a business conference. Yes, people are entrepreneurs, but it's really more focused on the spirituality and then outrageously fun parties. So I'm really looking forward to going back. And speaking of, I am about to do my live event, so I do want to get my meditation in before I don't want to be a hypocrite before we go. So is there anything else you want to wrap with?
Nope, absolutely. Emily, please let us know where our listeners or viewers can follow you, or your website, please, to learn more about you.
Yeah, so I'd say zivameditation.com is the best place for people to go. That's ZIVA meditation.com. And you'll find all about zivaKIDS. You'll find Ziva Online, which is the training for adults. And then if people just are like nerds like me and they want more of the neuroscience, there's a free masterclass that I'd love to send your listeners, which that's zivameditation.com/podcast. And that'll give you a bit of a deeper dive into actually what makes this technique so special and so powerful. And the kids training is it's for 4 to 14-year-olds, but it's 2 different trainings. And then the other thing is, why isn't everyone doing this? That's our new podcast that launches on May 16th. So I don't know when this is airing, but if it's post May 16th, if you wanted to go and subscribe and follow, that would be a huge help to us getting the word out with folks. And other than that, we're all over social media at Ziva Meditation.
Awesome. Emily, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the work you're doing. I look forward to following you and all the amazing and incredible things you're doing. Money and sex. I'm going to take a look at your course, because that's the 2 best. That's the 2 best words for me. So
that's gonna be the title of this interview.
Sex and money through meditation.
Yes.
I love
That's
it.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Emily.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning edtech company serving over 1 million students nationwide. We understand that as parents, you want to ensure that your child receives the best education possible. Say hello to ArgoPrep. With over 15 plus educational awards earned in just the past year, ArgoPrep's platform offers your child video lessons, quizzes, drills, printable worksheets, and more. Best of all, your ArgoPrep subscription comes included with 4 comprehensive digital workbooks that cover all 4 subjects: math, ELA, science, and social studies. Visit argoprep.com today and start your free trial.